You are now listening to the El Segundo podcast with...
Who? Craig Jones. Who? Craig Jones.
And having that guy around is the best thing that ever happened for the squad.
All right, episode 11 of the El Segundo podcast. If you're doubting that it's episode 11, search YouTube, search for those episodes. You're going to help boost our algorithm as you seek to find episodes that may or may not be there. But we're starting this one off strong. Lachlan Giles has been given $100,000 by an anonymous donor, a guy I met, a guy I know, a legend of a bloke. It may or may not be me. I'm going to leave that open to interpretation as we talk about what happens next. Giles has given out $100,000 to Australian Jiu-Jitsu athletes that have made a dent on the international scene, but still spend most of their time residing in Australia. So he's trying to keep these guys in Australia, incentivize them to stay in Australia, but he has added one caveat. What do you think that could be?
Let's see. Let's be clean. You just already mentioned staying in Australia. Anything I'm missing? Steroids. So I actually requested this to Lachlan Giles myself. I told him, I said, hey, we should only give this money out to athletes that are clean athletes, because of course I would like to remain the most famous Australian Jiu-Jitsu athlete of all time. And one way I can help achieve that is if I prevent other Australian athletes from taking steroids like I did to gain all my success. So by giving this money out and drug testing these guys to make sure they're clean, what we're ensuring is that any upcoming Australian athlete will be a clean athlete, which will put them at an incredible disadvantage in the global scene. And that will help further cement my legacy. Probably buy me another 5 to 10 years. We might have to find another donor to donate another $100,000 to make sure that these guys stay clean up until a longer date. Also ensuring that perhaps I may be the only two-time silver medalist in Australian history. But I think it's a brilliant play from Lachlan Giles. Again, I was a Lachlan Giles student. I'm a Lachlan Giles black belt. He gave me the black belt. I gave him his first 2 stripes on his black belt. Things change fast. But this is great because Lachlan Giles is looking out for me. He's like, oh, how can we protect Craig's legacy? Let's make sure the rest of Australian athletes remain drug-free, unlike myself. Yeah, it makes sense why your brother didn't get any of the money either, because, you know, after that weekend in Thailand, there's no way he would have passed that drug test.
Yeah, my brother, 6'8", 165 pounds, he did the drug test. He failed for crack and methamphetamines, unfortunately for him. But yeah, it's an interesting thing because one of the athletes, and Lachlan Giles, the bastard, has made me promise not to say his name, did not show up to the drug test. So I think you applied for the money. Giles said he had the money. You applied for the money. Then he, bam, spurs on you a drug test, and he says, hey, I'm going to book you in. These drug tests are very expensive. He's like, I'm going to book you in. You got to go and you got to pass the test. And then from there, I will give you the money that you have so earned. And what's interesting is a guy will give you a clue. I'll give you a clue, but I won't say who it is. It is from a Sydney gym. The man is from a Sydney gym. We'll narrow it down to New South Wales. But, I mean, you know who you are. We know who you are too. Obviously trying to get the money and be on steroids. That would be something I would do, and I don't agree with it at all. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I've never heard of anything like this happening before in the sport of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, not at all. You have Lachlan doing more drug tests than IBJJF itself, so.
Well, yeah, he's very invested in he's very anti-drugs. He's very just say no. I imagine that philosophy goes across across the spectrum of all drugs, you know? I mean, each to their own. To me, that could be a bit of fun police, but, you know, each to their own. But again, well, I'm very thankful for Lachlan Giles for doing this for me, for making sure that no other Australian athlete will be on steroids like myself. But also, Giles is basically doing this giveaway, giving this money away. It puts him firmly in the ranks of other jiu-jitsu sugar daddies. Giles has now become officially one of the jiu-jitsu sugar daddies that might give you an amount of money. They give you a lot of things, you know, a lot of the cool experiences we get in jiu-jitsu are a result of jiu-jitsu sugar daddies. That's a true thing, you know. As you're coming up, we make no money. People come along and they throw some money our way, they might just be rich older guys. We just have to be careful that we don't have our own John Dupont in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that's a good position to be. You don't want to be the famous guy. Conor McGregor can't even take a girl to a bathroom anymore. You want to be the rich guy that hangs out with Conor McGregor and no one knows who you are, but you're still friends with Conor McGregor.
Definitely. Lines up your bank account real nice.
You'd rather be the mascot than Conor McGregor, you know what I mean? But that was a big night. That was a big night for the man.
Yeah, like I was busy that night for sure. Shout out Miami Heat. They still lost the fucking NBA Finals, so.
They did lose the NBA Finals. Hey, I don't even follow basketball, but I got to go watch a Nuggets game earlier in the year and they lost. So that's the only basketball game I watched for the whole year. I watched the Denver Nuggets game. They lost to the Celtics and I was just like, oh wow, Denver Nuggets aren't very good.
How'd that connection with Volk and fucking the Nuggets happen? Just random shit.
I should know the Nuggets player's name, but
Jamal Murray, I think.
Jamal, yeah. Fuck, you were on tour today.
I'm a fucking full-on sports guy, bro.
Jamal and Volks are friends. Jamal went to Wollongong.
Oh shit.
And they did a thing where he like played some basketball. Volks played some basketball with Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray did some MMA training with Volks. And then
sick.
Then what we were in New York for Izzy Pereira, the first title fight. And the Nuggets were playing on the Friday night in Boston, so we flew up and hung out with those guys up there. But again, I know absolutely nothing, so I just watched the Nuggets game and they lost, and then suddenly I see the Nuggets are the champions, and it's like crazy to me. Hey, I should have been more of a fangirl. I should have bought more of the merchandise. I should have been like, hey, this is my team. I knew they were going to win, you know? But fortunately, they did win. All right, so again, Lachlan Giles testing for steroids, which is a big performance enhancer, yet no one is testing for the biggest performance enhancer in all of Jiu-Jitsu. I won't say combat sports, but all of Jiu-Jitsu. Obviously, that would be autism, something that you were unaware that you couldn't actually test for. I don't know how you'd test for that.
I didn't even know there was a test.
B-Team, I mean, we got a few with it. Some of it is funny, some of it's not. But again, yeah, autism, if you have the right mix, I call it the Goldilocks zone. If you have the right mix of autism and steroids, you are guaranteed, 100% guaranteed to become a world champion. And that's the thing, is that people are focusing on steroids, but really as a world-class coach, you really want to attract people with autism because you can give anyone steroids.
That's true. That's true.
Despite our best efforts, we've yet to give anyone autism. Obviously, a lot of people watched Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Joe Rogan and now think that the vaccine has given them autism. But yeah, we haven't done the research on that. We're going to have to consult our friend Alex Jones. That might be a question for Alex Jones. But we do obviously want to talk about what happened this weekend. And we've got to give a big shout out to Mo Jassim for putting forth the sequel to 127 hours. And that was 17 hours of the ADCC Dallas Open. So we'll kind of go through some of the results. I'll be honest, again, I didn't watch a lot of this. You know, I tried to, but 17 hours, fuck me. That's always going to be the problem with these open style events. It's IBJJF, it's like, unless it's if it's a 2.5 hour window, I'm going to watch the entire thing. You know, I'm going to watch everything. I'm going to watch undercard through to the end. If it's 17 hours, no one's getting through that. Eh? That's the Tour de France for Jiu-Jitsu. But of course, most of these events thrive on your friends and family subscribing to the platform to watch you compete. Flow Grappling had a text message notification system. Didn't work. You're meant to text you when your preferred grappler. The grappler you wanted to watch was meant to be on because it was a mess going through it. But I will say the replays were the way to do it, really. Like, it was hard to find the match live, but they had the replays up immediately. So most of the time I just went through the brackets and clicked the matches I wanted to watch. But yeah, it was a handful. Also, we got to give a shout out to UFC Fight Pass, one of the most incredible business decisions I've ever seen. They had ADCC on UFC Fight Pass. They put their logos on the mats, and then it ended up on Flow Grappling. And now Flow Grappling stream ADCC events with the UFC Fight Pass logo on it, which I think that's pretty incredible on Fight Pass there. I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they got away with it. I still don't know the story about what happened with ADCC being on Fight Pass and then it wasn't. I will say it benefits me because, again, I have Philippe Pena coming up. When we agreed to do the match, it was meant to be ADCC rules. And points are not my forte. So when ADCC dropped off of UFC Fight Pass, returned to Flow Grappling, they said, hey, we're not going to do ADCC rules now for obvious reasons. I still don't know what happened there, but we went to EBI rules, which is, again, something I think I have a little more experience in. Still, we'll probably lose the match, but I think I have more experience, more chance winning in this rule set than in an ADCC point style rule set. Because, guys, to be honest, I don't fucking know the rules. You know what I mean? If I do another ADCC to be my 5th one, I still don't know the fucking rules. It's complicated. IBJJF, complicated. I feel like we need something a bit simpler. That being said, ADCC produces exciting matches. It gets the competitors in, it gets the spectators in. So really, in terms of alternatives, there really isn't an alternative yet, as we speak right now. But let's go through one of the most interesting things about this event, right? Giancarlo Bodoni competed in the Open, which I want this to be a message to all up-and-coming competitors that dream of a life of riches. They say to themselves, oh, if I could only win ADCC, all my dreams will come true. I'll be driving a Toyota Corolla. I'll be living in a mansion. I'll pretend to be giving away cars. You think you're going to be rich, you think you're going to strike it rich if you win ADCC. Unfortunately, like all combat sports, all things in the world, it's a popularity contest. It's not measured on skill. Giancarlo, one of the best ADCC performances ever. In my opinion, the man should be making more money. He shouldn't really be doing these opens. It's a big risk. It's a big risk, you know, like obviously he loves competing, and it's experience for him in the rule set. Obviously looking to win more championships, but really, yeah, I don't think the risk is worth the reward. If you're a ADCC champion competing in an Open, Open's like competing in
a NAGA.
NAGA IBJJF event, you know, like Mo gives out some prize money. Shout out to Mo for doing that. I really respect that decision to pay the competitors that win. But really, I mean, again, you were an ADCC champion in our sport. That's like being an Olympic gold medalist. And then you go back to basically a regional event where you have to compete against up-and-coming killers. And for you, you're the reigning champ, and you have to go against these guys that it's like, if they beat you, they think their life's made. You know what I mean? They're headhunting. So first match of the day, and I don't know how this happened, because obviously Giancarlo, part of New Wave, obviously Gordon, John Danaher, Gary Tonin, that is the New Wave team. Gordon and Adam Bradley always going back and forth on the internet, hate each other, right? And somehow Giancarlo, the ADCC champ, draws Adam Bradley first round. I'm not putting on my tinfoil hat, but that seems to be an interesting first round matchup, given that in that division, I would say those two guys were probably the biggest names in the division. And typically speaking, you'd want to split them up. I'm sure there's a reason that happened, but I'm just putting on my conspiracy theory hat. Most people would assume that the ADCC champ would blow through Adam Bradley. Adam Bradley, of course, world-class competitor, but he didn't medal at ADCC trials, as far as I know. They go out, they have the match, and it's a close match, guys. I mean, this is probably one of the most interesting matches of the event. I would watch this match, but Giancarlo gets on top, gets forced as a half guard. Adam Bradley's playing a tricky variation of lockdown, and he's proving quite difficult to pass. Proving difficult to pass Adam Bradley's guard. He gets to a leg drag position, but Adam Bradley hangs on. That's regulation. That's a 6 minutes. That's a 6 minute match. So we go overtime, 3 minutes, they start standing. Giancarlo takes him down. Hit a nice drag on Bradley. Bradley held the wrist too long, was a bit complacent. Giancarlo hit kind of a loose arm drag, but was able to still get to top position, score 2. Now, here is a great example of the failure of my own knowledge, because I don't know the fucking rules here. As far as I know, if the top player initiates a submission threat, ends up on bottom, he doesn't lose sweep points. So say like I'm passing Freddie's guard, I dive over, latch onto Kimura, we have a bit of a scramble, Freddie ends up on top. That theoretically wouldn't be points to Freddie there in ADCC rules. In IBJJF rules, points. That's the difference there, right? Adam Bradley's on bottom, he's down by 2. Sets up a waiter sweep. Giancarlo goes for an Achilles lock, ends up on bottom. No points on the board. And you see Adam Bradley look at the score. You saw Giancarlo look at the scoreboard too, both trying to work out if there was points. IBJJF, the ref in the middle throws up the gang signs. You know pretty quick if you've been scored on or if you've scored. ADCC, the middle guy, the ref that's walking around the center, he doesn't throw up hands. So you have to look at the scoreboard. Sometimes the score can take a while. There's a team of referees that decide the points. They might have a discussion and then the points go up. So it's a bit of a delay. Not as quick as IBJJF, but a bit more thorough. You got a bit more people sort of processing the decision. No points. Ultimately, Adam Bradley, at some point in this match, also locks up a outside heel hook, and he said there were a few pops on it. Got a couple nasty pops on that thing. Again, this is me saying to like guys in Giancarlo's position, it's fucking risky doing these matches. You know, you're coming up against trained killers. For these guys, some of these ADCC Opens are the Olympics to them. You know, they might never make the actual ADCC Worlds. So yeah, it was an interesting match. It was funny because of the context. Obviously, Giancarlo's Gordon's teammate. Gordon hates Adam Bradley. That's one of the things if you're on Gordon's team and you come up against one of his enemies, you feel a bit of pressure there.
You better fucking win.
I felt the pressure. I remember I went up against Ronaldo Jr. and Gordon and Ronaldo Jr. would talk shit all the time to each other, and I was like, fuck me, I better not lose this guy. I'm going to hear about this shit in the gym, you know. But yeah, that was an interesting match. Giancarlo ended up taking out the division. After that match, he took it out pretty convincingly, I will say. So maybe it was just a slow start. Again, people have high expectations for Giancarlo, given that his performance at ADCC, again, one of the best performances ever, and one of the best first-time performances ever. Not many people win trials and win worlds. Not many people do it in that fashion either. I think it was three out of 4 submissions, right?
Yep.
What other, honestly, Luke Griffiths did, was he the under 100 kilo division?
I believe so. He looked pretty good as well.
Yeah, I should have this up here, right? I got the Flow Grappling app, and guys, there will never be a problem with the Flow Grappling app.
It's one of the better pieces of our modern time technology, man.
All right, so I was wrong. Giancarlo wins the under 100.
Yep.
Luke Griffiths, obviously a fucking massive cunt, wins over 100. Luke Griffiths, South African, he's pretty impressive, eh? He's got a sick butterfly guard game, really high percentage finishes on the back. Super impressive. Again, he's a guy that went basically the ref's decision with Yuri Simões in his weight division for ADCC. Yuri Simões became the absolute champ. So yeah, another impressive new wave performance.
I think he won the absolute as well.
He won the absolute as well, yep. He was able to beat... What's the guy that just lost to Lovato on WNO? Elder. He was able to beat Elder Cruz for the absolute final. Elder Cruz, again, another fucking beast, absolute monster. Under 91, that's the interesting division right now. I've been smoking a bit of crack, so I'm a bit light. I'd probably be doing the under 91 kilo division. But we saw some cool guys in there. We saw Stanley Rosa is a guy we used to train with in New York. He's from Bronx, but he would come into Enzo's. Vicious fucking leg locks, vicious Achilles locks. This guy would break my ankle on a weekly basis at Henzo's, but he had a match against Achilles Hosha. I don't even know how to fucking say it, but Achilles, obviously Wagner's son. I remember watching J-Rod and Achilles having a leg lock battle. Jay's ripping on heel hooks and Achilles just giving him that dead stare like he feels absolutely nothing. And again, you can do that. Again, Achilles, a young guy, so like he's got a bit of flexibility there. But you come across a guy like Stanley Rosa. Stanley Rosa has a lot of power. He feels like he could break your shin bone with an Achilles lock. So he locks up on Achilles, this sort of knee bar variation. I would definitely recommend watching this match, but
it's an uncomfortable watch. So he locks up this knee bar variation. Achilles is eating it. You see he's uncomfortable. There's a lot of pressure on the knee. Achilles tries to roll through, rolls himself into an inside heel hook and hesitates to tap. He was dead to rights. He hesitated. And that's because, again, he's had lots of matches where guys don't have great finishing mechanics. And he's eating heel hooks. This was not that time. He took a bad break. Yeah, he screamed afterwards. So hopefully he heals up quick. Stanley made it to the final against Mateus Lutz. Mateus Lutz was a Marcelo guy. He, I believe, opened his own gym somewhere on the East Coast outside of New York. Mateus Lutz was a world-class competitor. And then he disappeared off the scene for a while because of, I think, opened his own academy, but now he's back in a big way. He beat Sean Yardimarco in the semis, and then he beats Stanley Rosa in the finals. I believe he hit a north-south choke.
Oh, shit.
So that was a super nice match. I think this is the second Open Mateus Lutz has won. Lutz is tough as fuck. I competed against him at Polaris, put him in an inside heel hook, popped him pretty bad. This man ate it like it was nothing. And then we went to a decision. Boring match, I wouldn't recommend watching it. Now we'll talk about the under 83 kilo division. So Taza took out this division, but we had a lot of interesting guys in this. John Blank's back competing. We had Rene Souza in there.
Yeah. John Combs.
John Combs is in there. Yeah. Very, very tough bracket. I'm just trying to see if there's anyone else. Salazar from Legion is in there. Taza takes out Salazar. That was a good one. Salazar's very crafty, very tricky grappler. That's a big win for Taza there. Taza was running through some of these guys, getting some quick submissions. Rene and John Blank did very well. John Blank ultimately came up against Taza in the semifinals.
Yep.
And that was actually, this was a funny match actually. John Blank, he's made it to day 2 at ADCC. Like, he's an elite guy. And he made it there while working a full-time job. But nowadays, I think he runs his academy full-time. But he pulls on Taza, and then they have this weird exchange where they go out of bounds after the points period. And Taza stops, and I think the ref said stop, but John Blank just ran through it. And they slammed off the mats onto the basketball court. Again, ADCC, they don't stop shit too much and out of bounds. Like, you got to protect yourself at all times because you never know what's going to happen. He takes, and then Taza ultimately ends up scoring 2 off a grappling exchange, I believe. Blank took a shot that wasn't set up. Taza lashed on the front head. Blank didn't go for the takedown for 3 seconds, which would allow him to pull guard without losing points. He pulled guard very quick, and Taza scored 2 off it. John Combs, a guy that was a killer back in the day. I remember in the gi, IBJJF gi, he kept hitting these fucking arm-in guillotine variations. Yeah. He has a crazy guillotine. I don't know what he calls that, the comatine, the combat, God knows. The man smokes a lot of weed. He could call that thing anything. And when I say smokes a lot of weed, the Jiu Jitsu community smokes a lot of weed. So if I say John Combs smokes a lot of weed, he smokes a fuck ton of weed. But he actually takes Taza's back in the finals. Taza's got 90 seconds left to come back.
He was down 2, right?
Down 2, yeah. So he's down 2, and he gets fucking knee barred, and it looks brutal.
Yeah. Also happened out of bounds.
Out of bounds, yeah. It was hard to see. Like, I don't know what needs to be done with these matches, but it was like sometimes the action would look like it was like a fisheye lens or something.
Yeah, the camera was pretty grainy, I feel like.
Yeah, it was like far off in the distance, so you couldn't see too many of the details. But obviously, when you see the ADCC official vlogs, you'll see some of these matches up close with more detail. But yeah, Combs secures the back, secures the points. Taza escapes the back. Sometimes when you're lazy, you're playing crab ride. You leave a hook in there. Fuck, they jump onto a knee bar, they rip it. Yep. Taza ripped it because he got it in under his lat, got it into his armpit there. Fuck. Combs hesitated and he limped off. Hopefully his knee's all right. Another shocking one that brings me back was Junior Casio got knee barred. Yeah. He was playing some crab ride, got knee barred.
That was early in the day, like
early
the first fight. That was his first match or something?
I think he maybe won one and then straight into it.
Yeah, that was a upset for sure.
Under 76 kilos. So I believe this was our boy Pio. Pio, who trains with us from time to time, is a good friend of us at B Team. He's a Faraz Zahabi guy, lives up in Canada. I believe he lives exclusively off his cryptocurrency earnings. Whenever someone tells me that, I automatically assume drug dealer. You know what I mean? Because I only know people that lose money in crypto. But
we go through it. Yeah, Pio actually took on one of our boys in the first round, which is pretty disappointing because Pio spent so much time here. Roman had to face him in the first round. Roman's a
beast, dude. Shout out Roman.
Beast, bro, beast. Honestly, I thought Roman was too small for this division, but he proved me wrong with his performance against Pio. I believe it went to ref's decision. They had a scrap. So tough first round for Roman, and it was a physically demanding first round for Pio, but Pio moved his way through. We had not as many big names in this division. Like we had Derek Rayfield. That's about one of the only names I recognize in '76. Oh, Ben Eddy as well, my bad. Yeah. So we had Ben Eddy, Derek Rayfield, Pio. Those were the names, obviously, I recognize there. So Derek Rayfield and Ben Eddy, 210 Planet guys. Pio beats Derek Rayfield by decision. He beats Ben Eddy by also score, so by 2 points. He goes on to the final against M. Saints, Team Alpha Male guy by the looks of it. I don't recognize him, Michael Saints. And Pio takes out the division, so props to Pio for that. Hopefully he comes back through here before he heads back to the cold, miserable northern hellhole of Canada. I only say that because I've never been to Canada. Who has? Why would you know? All right, so we go under 70 kilos. So some of the names I recognize here, DeAndre Corbet. Oh, yeah. He's fucking a jacked.
He's a beast, dude.
Jordan Holly. Going through again.
Corbet won the whole thing, right?
Yeah, Corbet won the whole thing. Corbet, he hit some fucking pretty cool moves. He's a good guy to watch. Your boy was in there, Reese from New Wave.
Yeah, that's the only match I watched from that division was Corbet beating Reese.
He's a Nashville guy, right?
Yeah. Now he's a New Wave guy. He used to be a Nashville.
He used to be a Nashville. So yeah, Corbet beats Reese in the semis. Yeah, Reese has been doing pretty well in some of these local events. Yeah. Competes a lot. So yeah, Corbet takes out 70. Corbet's definitely got a bright future. I mean, he's already doing it,
He's a Nogi world champion, I think, right?
Nogi world champion, yeah. Minus 65 kilos. Here we go. So we had our boy Dorian.
Oh yeah.
All right, how do I say his last name?
Olivares, bro.
Olivares, yeah. So we got Dorian Olivares. Dorian, he's either 15 or 16. God knows.
I need to see the birth certificate on that one.
Yeah, we need to see the birth certificate because he does not feel 15, 16. He's on that Mika Galvao shit, eh? I love this guy coming in because he comes to the gym, his dad brings him in. He just fights to the death against everyone. Yeah. So again, under 65 kilos. So he's a little fella, but he's going to be big because, again, he's just still a child. Yeah. But he'll come in, he'll scrap with Nicky Ryan, Ethan, Damien, and even Heisem. So we'll put that on the YouTube shortly. But Dorian's one of the best wrestlers in the country for his weight division as well. And then he competes in jiu-jitsu as well. I'm not sure what his future intentions are. I mean, with that skill set, you'd have to imagine MMA. But just the level of physicality he brings to these grappling matches is the same physicality you see in wrestling matches. Typically, we don't see that in grappling because if you approach a match like that, you get tired because we have longer matches. So you usually can't maintain that pace. But Dorian, being a 16-year-old kid,
never-ending gas tank on that kid.
Yeah, you don't get tired. That's the thing. I don't want to face anyone around the age of 18 because they don't get tired. Like you have that kid energy. It's kind of unfair. Obviously, another performance-enhancing thing. If you had steroids, autism, and you were a child, you would be basically unbeatable. But yeah, Dorian took out the division. No surprise here. I'm looking at this list, this opening list. I'm trying to see Jeff Real. He's
the guy from San Diego.
From San Diego.
Yeah.
Nick Ortiz was in here too. He unfortunately went down first round. Nick would be a tough match for Dorian for sure. Fabian Ramirez, our boy, we trained with him a bit. He was on the Who's Next reality show. Fabian made it all the way to the quarters, but lost in the semis. Dorian takes out Jeff, and then he takes out Logan Marshall, 10th Planet guy in the finals. 60 kilos, yeah, right. So Junior Castro, he ended up losing second round. He was probably the number one pick, number one seed, but he was the favorite to take out this division. I don't recognize too many of these guys in the 60 kilo division. Again, if you're that small, you're going to be hard to spot physically to begin with, let alone pay attention to you competing. But yeah, 60 kilos, that's seems like a big cut for Juni. So I remember him being a little bit bigger.
Big guy, yeah.
But who's this? Dylan Cameron, Gracie Baja was able to take out the whole division.
I have no idea who that is.
Can't say I've heard of him, but I will definitely tune in and watch his matches. Again, I told you, 17 hours of grappling. It's hard for us to do a recap straight after this event unless we have absolutely no lives at all. Obviously, Freddie doesn't exactly have much of a life, but of course, he's a lazy fuck. And again, we had the UFC, we had ADCC, but most importantly, we had Black Mirror come out this weekend. And if you're going to ask me, am I going to watch the UFC, ADCC Open, or Black Mirror, I'm going to watch Black Mirror every
time.
Single time. Because to be a part of the jiu-jitsu community is kind of like an episode of Black Mirror. A lot of weird shit happens in this sport. If you guys were paying attention to my Instagram, I heard a rumor and I threw it out there. So you guys might hear about this soon. It might get swept under the rug. But I made a Chris Hansen joke. Again, I made a Chris Hansen joke. I forget that I train with a bunch of uncivilized children who really don't know who Chris Hansen is. I'm from the generation that was worried about Chris Hansen. These guys I train with are from the generation that would have been the victims in this scenario. So, you know, it's like we've mixed things up in this situation. Again, not many people know. Chris Hansen, To Catch a Predator, that's a dark TV show, but fuck, it was entertaining. I think Chris Hansen ended up going down because they did a sting operation on him and he got busted cheating.
Oh, well. I thought somebody killed themselves off of that show or something.
You'd want to, honestly. If I got caught on To Catch a Predator, I would probably kill myself. I don't know if there's a... that's a bad way to go. Definitely. Honestly, watching those guys get tasered, that would never get old. That would never get old. But yeah, that was, so interesting. So you might hear about it. Obviously, we've got a bit of a fucked up history in this sport. Recently, had the fight sport scandal. We had the Lloyd Irvin scandal. I'm not going to get into the details of any of these things. First and foremost, I probably don't know the facts right. Secondly, could probably get sued. But yeah, again, we do have a lot of creeps in this sport, right? And it's ironic because the IBJJF actually make you pass a background check when you try to register as a team. I personally failed the background check. Don't jump to conclusions. You might be right, but don't jump to conclusions. I failed because my name was too common, Craig Jones. So it's actually happened to me before when I've been coming into the country through immigration where they've gone, they've said, hey, Craig, are you a wanted fugitive? Just because I had a super common name. And it's like, I was like, well, fuck, I'm not going to answer that honestly anyway, am I? But they let me into the country. Sadly, IBJJF I didn't pass the background check. You have to do a safe sport course and a background check, right? So I failed the background check. We got Seth, he's the head coach of B Team. Maybe I pretended to fail it, so now whenever anyone registers for B Team, Seth has to do all the paperwork. That could also be, because again, anytime someone switches teams, you got to go through it and fucking manually do all this shit. I'm not going to do that. But you have to pass a safe sport course. The safe sport course is about recognizing warning signs for sexual assault. It's got nothing to do with the IBJJF, it's third party, just like your USADA would be third party, but you have to pass this course to do it. My problem is, if we think of the IBJJF and our biggest criticism of the IBJJF, we have a bunch of people that are absolute experts in skirting the rules. You know what I mean? They'll do crazy shit to win a match. You know, like if I said what's a takedown, you might picture a double leg. In IBJJF, if I'm touching your pants, I do a fake foot sweep as the guy pulls guard, bang, 2 points. That's a takedown in their book. If I grab Freddie in an Achilles lock and he flees the mat, he could get DQ'd, or if they believe he's fleeing in an attempt to clear the submission, not just fleeing, I would get 2 points. But again, these guys are good at skirting the rules. I might grab Freddie's foot, drag him out of bounds, and then I still get the 2 points. The funniest shit was back in the day, we'd see 50-50 battles where two guys would be trying to get an advantage and they'd be trying to rip Achilles locks on each other, and they would just be making crazy faces at the ref, like as if like, oh, this is fucking, I'm putting so much into this has got to be hurting. And you'd see the other guy, whether he's feeling it or not, just trying to be stone-faced and eat the submission, so that, again, you get an advantage if it's a real submission threat that you had to basically defend. You get an advantage. If I'm using the proper grammar here. But my point being is I don't think it's a good idea. Like, I think IBJJF would be better if some of these guys that scam the rules didn't know the rules. My point is if you take a bunch of sexual predators and give them a safe sport course, that might actually make them better sexual predators.
Pretty much gave him the game plan, gave him the book.
You're giving them the game plan, and we know what these guys are like when they know the rules. They skirt the rules. So yeah, it is an interesting thing. Obviously, something not to be made light of. Again, it is a lot of creeps in the sport. Creeps in general, you know, like it's martial arts. There's a lot of weird cult-like figures and leaders in the sport. That's what I try to do my bit for the sport by making an absolute joke out of what we do and take some of the seriousness away so that these people, they don't get on the power trip so much. You know, like, no one should call me professor. I have a bachelor's degree in behavioral science, and I've trained jiu-jitsu for fucking 15 years. Please don't call me professor. That's fucking embarrassing. I can't go to the gym and have people with real jobs, lawyers, doctors and shit, calling me professor. That's absolutely ridiculous. They should call me master, if anything. Master or sensei.
Sensei Craig Jones.
I think the only guy I heard of being called master was Lloyd Irvin, Master Lloyd.
In jiu-jitsu, yeah. The guy from Kings, fucking Master.
Cordero.
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one. Master Eddie Bravo, I heard that one.
Master, I mean, actually, to be honest, getting called master, if you're a white guy, might not be the move. You know what I mean? That might not be the move if you have a diverse student base. But you could try it. It just might not look as cool. Back to funny IBJJF shit, guys. So there's a story a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't remember this figure. So Bill Cooper, if we rewind back to 2004, 2005, around that time, a time when a lot of jiu-jitsu, probably a lot of listeners weren't even fucking alive, unfortunately. We know our age range. So does a lot of creepy Brazilian professors do as well, unfortunately. But Bill Cooper was basically the number one in the world right now. He was out of Paragon. He trained with Jeff Glover. Bill Cooper was a guy, we tried to get him for one of the early podcasts, but you guys know we had some audio issues. We definitely had some audio issues with that episode. We also had some general trouble tracking Bill Cooper down and locking him down to a time frame. I remember we booked in a podcast at 9 a.m. In Santa Barbara. I think we got it done at like 3 p.m. So it was a challenge to just locate the man. It's a challenge to get him to answer his phone. He's got a wild background in the sport. I'll try to tell some Bill Cooper stories, but like to keep it on track with the IBJJF rules and shit. It was 2004, and I believe it was the Brown Belt Worlds final. And at the time, Bill, again, like I said, one of the best Americans to ever grace the pajamas. Bill Cooper was an innovator. He had some wild stuff from deep half. He was doing leg locks early days. Just absolute weapon. If you guys don't know who I'm talking about with Bill Cooper, go on YouTube, look up his match in the gi against Cyborg. It was back at a time where Cyborg looked more like a human being than the thing from Fantastic Four. But one of the most exciting matches I've ever seen. You'll see how dynamic Bill Cooper is. But Bill, he's in the final, and he's in the final against an absolute beast called Otavio Souza. A lot of IBJJF gi guys know him as a Gracie Barra. He's a world champion. He had some scraps with Leandro Lowe, rest in peace. But he's beating Otavio, and throughout the match, he's in the final, he's up by a sweep, and what he told me was he wasn't wearing underwear because they'd got very sweaty in the lead up to his finals match. Unfortunately for him, the referee notices he's not wearing any underwear, disqualifies him. And at the time, I think he would have been maybe the first American to actually win gold in a Pan Am's like high belt division tournament like that. And then I believe the conspiracy theory is that there wasn't actually a rule in the rules book at the time that said you had to be wearing underwear. That's the conspiracy. I'm probably completely wrong about this, but then suddenly next year for the IBJJF, they added it. Again, at that time, there was no beer and bolo, so the guys weren't grabbing each other's pants as much. So you could probably get away with letting a bit of butthole out back then.
Probably a good rule, now that you think about it.
It is a good rule. It is a good rule. I'm not saying it's a bad rule, but Bill Cooper was on a path to glory. Luckily, they had a revenge. He faced up against Otavio Souza, I believe, at Black Belt Worlds in the gi, and he knee barred him. He hit him with like a backstep knee bar. Incredible. I believe Jeff Glover even yelled out, "Leg lock," and Bill Cooper dove on it.
But Bill's got a bit of a wild story. I remember I trained with him in Louisiana one time. Strangely, it was me, Ben, Eddie, and Bill Cooper. And he was telling me so EBI, Bill competed, he made it all the way to the finals against Eddie Cummings. He got heel hooked pretty quick in the finals, but he had a crazy run. He beat Gio Martinez in overtime with an armbar. Again, we can't emphasize enough what a talent this guy was. And if you watch his matches online, you guys will see as well what an absolute beast Bill Cooper was. But Bill competing against Gio and Eddie Cummings, guys like that, his weight division is typically much higher. However, he had just done a recent stint in prison. When he hadn't been training, he hadn't been eating. Obviously, he hadn't been eating. Maybe, arguably, I think even taking some substances that might suppress the appetite. Maybe that's why he ended up in prison. Again, I don't know. We tried to get it out of him on the podcast, but the podcast collapsed on us. But he came straight out of prison to compete in EBI and made it all the way to the finals to lose to Eddie Cummings. And he beat Gio Martinez along the way. And I just think it's absolutely crazy how talented some of these guys are. I don't think I'm taking silver after a prison stint. But again, I'm not taking gold either. But that is just some crazy Bill Cooper stories for you. He was a guy that was at the peak, at the absolute peak of American Jiu-Jitsu at the time. Him and Jeff Glover. But you can still go train with him. I think he still trains at Paragon Gym up in Santa Barbara. So he's still a weapon. Again, I was talking about some of the stuff he innovated, deep half, DAS chokes. He was doing leg locks. We got to pick his brain a bit about how he used to learn back then, and that obviously that was a time before instructional DVDs. He's looking at textbooks. Are you looking at moves in a fucking textbook? They're showing picture by picture moves. Jiu-Jitsu magazines, they're showing techniques in magazines. And he really had to go to seminars. So I know he would travel around. He said he used to go to visit Mark Lehman's school in Las Vegas to pick up a lot of techniques, because Mark Lehman, another sort of American Jiu-Jitsu legend, his name's heavily faded away, but it was huge early days for a while there. But yeah, he would have to travel all over to try to pick up sort of cutting edge techniques, or you'd see it in a tournament and you'd try to recreate it, but that was really the only way you could learn back then. People don't have the luxury of fanatics. Nowadays, the information's out there. You know, even if you don't watch instructionals, every match is online somewhere, you know, and the vast quantity of matches online, all the information's there. So you can figure it out. You can train at a small gym, as long as you got a group of dedicated guys, hard-working guys, and you're going to put in the work, you can make it happen. Back then, way more difficult to sort of find these moves. These moves were secrets back then. Now there's really no secrets. If it's been done in a tournament, it's on the internet. And if you can see it, you can replicate it. A smart enough person will be able to replicate it and figure it out. Guys, let's also talk about the AIGA grappling event in Kazakhstan. AIGA, which someone kindly commented on my post and said, does AIGA mean am I gay again? Which I thought was pretty funny. No, it doesn't. And again, those people don't take too kindly to those jokes over there, you know. Some of those jokes they will get you in trouble over there. They won't get you killed, but you get in trouble. AIGA is a Kazakh grappling event that's fucking world-class production, incredible show. They're putting on an event now, which is $120,000 prize. It's basically like a wrestling meet. They'll do your teams could be anything. Honestly, it could be a brand. It could be a fucking like Acai Republic. It could be an actual acai company. There's a bunch of different options there. So again, it could be a B team. It could be a level black team. These things are random. They could be in-house teams, super teams, whatever. Great idea. It's basically following on from Quintet, which still, to this day, I think is the most exciting thing that's ever happened in grappling. That shit was so good. It might not have been as viewed or as widely watched as some of the more recent events, but fuck, that was awesome.
That was fun.
Sakuraba, goddamn genius, bringing team events to grappling. This one's a bit different. It's not winner stays in. It's just like a wrestling meet. 60 kilo guy versus 60 kilo guy, 3 5-minute rounds. And we sent a team over, we sent a B team over. I support this event because I've been friends with these Kazakh legends since 2016. So 2016, I competed in ADCC trials in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
which is an Asian trials event. Typically speaking, one of the Asian trials would be in Japan and one would be in a random spot. So I remember once I did it in South Korea, Seoul, South Korea. One I did in Almaty, Kazakhstan. These days, I think they're mostly going to be Singapore, Tokyo, Sydney, Australia, or something like that. They typically held back from putting them in Australia because they've got such tough immigration requirements. You know, like it's hard to get a tourist visa to Australia, and these events should be open to everyone in Asia. But again, maybe if you have trouble getting to Australia, you're going to have trouble getting into America for the Worlds anyway. But either way, we want the toughest Asian trials we can do. But if you guys go back and watch when I competed against Lo and Murillo, you guys will actually see I'm wearing Kazakhstan top team spats. And that's because I won the trials in Kazakhstan and we went out partying that night. We had a wild time with some of these Kazakh guys, and in an absolute state of drunkenness I was in, I said, yo, I love you guys. I will wear Kazakhstan top team for ADCC. Little do I know, little do I barely remember. I remember I said it, but I show up in Finland to ADCC, and what do we have here? We have my Kazakh friends presenting me the Kazakhstan top team outfit. Obviously I have sponsors, so I can't wear the whole outfit, but I did wear the spats, fly the Kazakh flag. These guys have been my friends for a long time. Legends, good guys. But yeah, that's why we sort of support the event. That's why I did a sort of a warm-up match for ADCC, and I did it in Kazakhstan. What year was that? It was, I think, it was last year.
Last year, yeah.
Last year, I'm fucking cooked. So 2022, I went to Kazakhstan to compete against Dagestan's best, right? So like, I keep putting fuel on the fire of the Dagestan Australia beef. I keep firing this shit up. I love talking shit about Sambo. Obviously, it's all in good fun. But yeah, I faced off against their best guy. He came out pretty heavy, to be honest. He popped my ankle a couple times, but he got gassed out, and I took his back and choked him, I believe. But then obviously we had the Volks Islam stuff, which was more fuel on that fire. It's great fun marketing. I just hope that they don't eventually murder me. But they were going to put a team in the AIGA event just because they thought I was going to compete for the B team. Yeah. But then they ended up backing out. But I don't know what's happening now. I think they might be competing in the September event. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. But either way, we put a B team in there. We put in the C team of B team. So we sent some guys over there. Red Games, a big gaming company, sort of sponsored the whole event. Thank you. Sponsored our team. Thanks to Brian. We sent a crew over there of guys. We couldn't find a 60 kilo guy, so we took a 10th planet guy for 10P Austin. But the guys did pretty well. They beat the Kyrgyzstan team, and they lost to the Kazakh team, and they lost to the Assay Republic team. But they put up a good sort of fight. But we did get a lot of people, especially, we actually got messages from the Kazakh guys being like, hey, why didn't you send some of the more elite level guys? And it's like, man, it's hard. So like if we were to put together a super team, it would probably be me, Nicky Rod, Nicky Ryan, Ethan, J-Rod, Damien. We'd definitely be putting Dorian in, and then we'd have some backup crew like Joseph Chan, Declan Moody. We could put in a killer team. The problem is, it's like 120K split between these guys. It's not really much money for us to really get in there. Obviously, we could find sponsors for the team and stuff, but like, I don't want to talk about how much money events are paying me these days for just single super fights. But yeah, it would really be tough for me to get to compete for some of this. Obviously, I love competing, but it's not. Again, like I spoke about with Giancarlo and ADCC Open, well, if we weigh up risk versus reward, the risk is great, even just on the potential for injury. Because again, if you're a big name, like I can't even do a seminar without someone trying to absolutely take my fucking head off, let alone a sort of, I'm not going to say a lower level event, because I would say AIGA is a fantastic event. It's a world-class event. You never know who you're going to face, but you could potentially get injured. Like again, I compete against this Dagestani guy. First thing he tries to do is Kanibasami flying scissor, and I'm just like, man, I was watching my ADCC silver medal dreams wash away that year. I was like, because that's a major cause of injury. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
these team events are absolutely brilliant. But if you want to get super teams, we would have to be talking $500,000 to $1 million prize money, and even then it's going to be tough. Like, if your team's full of Americans, we know Americans don't like traveling overseas. A lot of Americans don't have passports and stuff. One of our better guys we could have put in the team, Roman, actually just doesn't have a passport, which I wish I knew. I would have bought the fucking kid a passport, you know. But yeah, it would be tough to get the absolute elite of the elite in. That being said, if someone did have the budget, did have the sponsors to boost the prize money to a level, it would be mind-blowing to watch the teams that people would put forth. Like, if you talked about a $1 million prize money teams event, and maybe on Fight Pass, maybe they would have the budget to do it. I don't know what Flo's budget. Flo probably broke the bank getting ADCC back on there.
Big time.
But yeah, it would be crazy. I think one day we'll hit it. I don't know. I think I got one match left in me, but you never know. If the price is right, I'll do anything. But I think one day we will see a teams event with a budget like that. We got Zuckerberg training jiu-jitsu now. Like, all you need is the right jiu-jitsu sugar daddy to throw some dollars at an event. Yeah. And hey, anything can happen, you know? But yeah, obviously AIGA, phenomenal event. I think Mo's putting together an ADCC super team for the next event. I'm trying to think who else is in there. Who else is in the next event?
Khabib will probably do a team again. Fucking AIGA Republic surely comes back, eh?
Yeah, AIGA Republic. I think you have to do 3. So I think basically it would be, to get the 120K, you'd have to visit Kazakhstan 3 times. And I mean, like, I don't think you could pay Nicky Rod $100,000 to take 3 international flights to Kazakhstan.
I was going to say, my man does not like flying, huh?
The man has made enough money off of OnlyFans hog shots that you'd have to book him a private jet to Kazakhstan, you know? The man thought Puerto Rico was a foreign country, you know? It was hard enough to get him down into the jungles of Puerto Rico. But yeah, AIGA, I would definitely be watching. So this one was free on YouTube. I believe it was meant to be on Fight Pass. Don't know what happened there. I think the next event will likely be a Flow Grappling streamed event. But yeah, it's going to be wild if Mo puts that team together, if he sends those guys down.
I'm imagining he's ready to put a super team out there himself, you know?
Kazakhstan's fun, man. I remember we went over there. I ended up staying at the guy's private hunting lodge in the mountains, and that shit, it was wild. We were out. What happened was, it was like minus 30 degrees Celsius.
Oh, come on. Everybody's American here. What is that in actual degrees?
Well, I mean, they can Google it, man. They can Google it. Fahrenheit, fake fucking temperature. 0 degrees should be freezing point. Who said it was 30? What fucking American said that? You know what I mean? Get with the rest of the world, you know? But yeah, we're out in the mountains. And we're taking my friend Alan's sort of toy cars out. They put me in his car, and he's absolute speed demon, like adrenaline junkie. So like, I was terrified. He gives me a rifle. I'm sitting in his off-roading thing, and he's flying it up the side of mountains in the snow and shit, just burning this thing out. My arsehole was puckered right up. My arsehole was definitely tight that day. We went for this long adventure, and then he eventually lets me drive. Within 15 seconds, I blow the fan belt on the car. I don't even know what a fucking fan belt is, to be honest. We're out there with 2 cars, and we're the furthest possible point away from his hunting lodge. 5-star palace of a hunting lodge. And then the other guy driving the other, who's an American guy as well, he blew the fan belt on his at the same time. So we're out of radio signal. We're so far away. It's so cold. We have to start walking back and hope we get signal. I'm hearing wolves in the background. There's snow leopards and shit out there. I remember this is when we took a photo and I pretended like we're out there hunting snow leopards. That definitely was a swing and a miss. People did not see the humor in that. That's a group of people that can't take a joke, you know what I mean? People that are anti-hunting, which I get it. It's, to some extent, it's not that funny, but anytime someone's irrationally bothered by something that you're doing as a joke is entertainment to me. But yeah, we ended up walking for fucking a long time before we got radio signal and got picked up by his crew. But yeah, out in Kazakhstan, man, it's a good time. It's a beautiful spot. Almaty kind of reminds me of like a Salt Lake City.
Oh, nice.
Like, you got this beautiful city with snow-covered mountains in the background.
But yeah, definitely a good time. So if any competitors are listening that have been asked to join a team to go out to Kazakhstan, highly recommend it. You definitely have a fantastic time out there. Unfortunately for our boys though, they didn't make it through to round 2. We tried to cheat. We tried to do everything to get through to round 2, but obviously we didn't make it. The C team has now been downgraded to the D team, which honestly the D team's not a bad name.
No, it sounds pretty good.
That's something we could make some merchandise in.
Might run that, yeah.
The D, if we put a team logo up for the D team, it might only be Heisem in the picture, unfortunately. But he carries enough. He carries enough for the rest of us. As the burglar found out, that's why the burglar was limping. In case you guys didn't put 2 and 2 together, it wasn't the D Ashi Harai. It was just the D. That's what got him. Traveling to Kazakhstan is a journey from America. It was. My flight path, there was 3 flights. Actually, funny, I should bring this up. This is funny because we flew to Europe and then we flew from Germany to Kazakhstan. And I remember we all got on the plane and I mean, I was already well and truly, I drugged myself, Xanax, Valium, whatever, anything to get through the airport experience. People are at their absolute worst. Like if I had access to the nuclear codes, just put me on a Spirit Airlines flight and I'm destroying the entire world. But we got on this plane and we looked at the flight path and it took us straight through Ukraine. Like the map had a direct flight path through Ukraine. And I hear people on the plane started to panic. And then literally the captain gets on and he's like, guys, do not be alarmed. We are going to fly around the Ukraine. It's going to take us a little bit longer. And at that point of my 20-hour journey, I was like, let's fucking fly straight through Ukraine. I'd rather die than be 2 more hours in this plane. But yeah, I'm saying that because the plane's a bad experience for a jiu-jitsu body. Like I'm 31, but I probably got the mileage of a 51-year-old. Even today, I just trained with Nicky Rod. It's a Sunday here, so I trained with Nicky Rod. A few of us were meant to show up for this training session. Only Nicky Rod showed up. So that's absolutely the worst possible thing to happen to my body was Nicky Rod's presence on both DDS and now B team. He takes years off my life. But yeah, people always have these stupid fucking t-shirts and shit. Jiu-jitsu saved my life. I guarantee you, it has ruined more lives than it's saved. People have lost relationships because of jiu-jitsu. They've lost jobs. Sometimes they don't even get fired from their job because they keep skipping work for training. They just think it's a great idea to quit their job and take a lower paying job so that they can train more jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is not good for your body. It's bad for your back. It's bad for your neck. It's bad for your knees, bad for your elbows. And that's even if you're good. Just think about if you absolutely suck. So again, jiu-jitsu ruined my life would be a much more fitting t-shirt. The first time I heard this expression was in New Zealand. One of the guys that trained at City Kickboxing, Band, he always used to say that. He used to say, yeah, jiu-jitsu ruined my life, you know? Again, a lot of people will have high-paying career jobs and they'll downgrade their lifestyle so they can train more jiu-jitsu. Again, that's dumb. You might be listening to a ton of alpha male podcasts about pursuing your dreams. That's not a good idea, you know? Like, jiu-jitsu, probably about 5 competitors in the world make more than $100,000 a year, you know? So ask yourself, is it worth the sacrifice to get there? I'm so dumb myself that being a professional jiu-jitsu athlete wasn't even a career path when I pursued it.
What the fuck were you trying to do?
It didn't exist. You just would try to win a couple world championships and open up a school. That was your career path. Right now, I wouldn't even need a school. Obviously, I could just compete and do instructionals, live off sponsors, and just basically being a social media whore. I could make enough money, but like, again, that didn't exist. Gordon was probably the first real professional full-time athlete, and then I got to ride those coattails and pursue the same career. But yeah, it didn't really exist. I remember just thinking, when you're young, you're like, oh, I'd rather do a job. I'd rather do something I love and be broke than work a 9 to 5 and have a comfortable income. You know, like that fades quick at 30. And if you didn't make it in jiu-jitsu by 30, your body is going to be in a lot of pain for the rest of your life, you know? That's why I have to restrict my rolling time. Anyone that's bigger than me, you can get fucked, you know? Like, I do not
want to roll with you ever. I happily roll with people 25 pounds lighter than me for the rest of my life, you know. It's just an absolutely awful experience.
Yeah, those 8 a.m.s can't be fun with Heisem. Nikki should be showing up soon to those too.
I wake up every day and come to an 8 a.m. class to roll with Heisem Reader, and I can only imagine the feelings the same way if you were cellmates and it was shower time at 8 a.m. in prison and Heisem was there. Imagine you would probably come out better on the body, you know? 8 a.m. I roll with Heisem, Nicky Ryan. 12 p.m. I roll with Nicky Rod. Obviously, I've done a lot of horrible things in this life, but I feel like to have earned that, I must have done some really horrible things in a past life.
Yeah. These guys are trying to kill you as well, bro. Just wait until Heisem gets into the hang of things. You're fucking dead, eh?
Yeah, that was the worst part. I came back from 2 months away, 2 months on a absolute bender, not training, and I show back up, and Nicky Rod and Heisem are eagerly awaiting my return to try to kill me. Yeah. And honestly, I wish they would actually put the nail in the coffin and finish me off, you know?
Yeah, you keep fucking with Heisem like that. That's coming sooner than later, man.
It's coming.
He's gonna break your leg one day for sure.
Yeah, I'm one buggy choke away from death for sure. A worse death than the burglar.
Yeah, it's gotta be the stupid submissions that these guys fucking hate the most, man. To be honest with you, you really do come up with some fucked up shit. Like yesterday, you did that closed guard thing where you fucking.
Oh yeah, the close. You gotta. The only way you can beat a closed guard crush is with a can opener. You gotta fight fire with fire.
Yeah, the fucked up moves, bro, the fucked up moves.
We spend the last 3 days filming a closed guard instructional. I've named it Closet Guard because I believe every man begins their journey in life in the closet, and just like Jiu-Jitsu, you should begin your Jiu-Jitsu journey in the closed guard. That's the next instructional. Obviously, I'm going to use this to plug an instructional. We filmed about 2.5 hours of pure gold content. Actually, one of those scenes, I was being mean to Freddie, saying horrible things to Freddie, and our cameraman started laughing for 10 minutes. We deducted that 10 minutes from his pay because we had to stop filming. But that's good for our cameraman, Tony. Usually Tony accidentally deletes the entire footage off the camera. So if he's only laughing in a scene, I think that's good. But yeah, closed guard. I'm beginning a fundamental series. Everything I've done so far has been absolute sort of weirdness lately, you know what I mean? Like octopus guard, false reap, specific things. But I've been told by the overlords of BJJ Fanatics, Craig, we want a fundamental series. So I'm trying to produce a fundamental series that's going to apply to modern no-gi grappling. I'm going to do that in a succinct, short series. So the first one's closed guard. So we're working on closed guard. Basically, we're working on 3 positions within the closed guard. You don't need 8 hours. You don't need 27 different moves. Let's face it, you just need a few to be effective. So in this one, we did the basic arm across, overhook position, and the top lock position. I believe that's all you need to really have an effective closed guard. We don't get into any of that rubber guard stuff. We don't go too deep into things like Williams guard. Just sticking with the basics, you know. Again, I tried to only put moves in this instructional that have worked at the absolute highest level. Overhook is where Eddie Bravo submitted the great Hoyler Gracie from in his ADCC run. The arm across position is how Shunji Hibero submitted Rustam Chisiev, and the top lock is something that Hodja Gracie found great success with, who's obviously one of the greatest competitors in Jiu-Jitsu history. Cool guy too. And the man knows how to have fun. He loves a beer, he loves a good time. That's something I can really appreciate. If you meet the best in the world at something, and they're not going to get drunk and fucked up with you, you know what I mean? I want someone that can do it all, you know? Like, anyone can be a champion, but can you have a good time along the way? That's important, you know? Unless I'm seeing you 6 a.m. when the sun's rising and our pupils are dilated, unless I see you in that moment, I will never fully trust you or respect you. But yeah, that's the basic product that's coming. Closed guard. We're going to go through a broad range of fundamental stuff. These will be just 2.5 hours. That's all you need. That's all your attention span has. You know what I mean? So we pump these out. Right behind this wall here is our new BJJ Fanatics filming studio. I was filming at the B team, but fucking assholes are opening those doors, coming in all the time. I want to keep the production value high. You know what I mean? We want to keep the production value high, and the B team
who the fuck knows what's going on in there? People are coming and going at random hours, you know? So we rented a studio so we could pump more of these out. We'll finish up the podcast we'll talk more about Mo Jassim and in context in terms of his argument with Robert Drysdale. These guys go back and forth a fair bit online, actually. I feel like Drysdale loves an argument. He fucking loves an argument, and Mo doesn't really let anything go, you know? Like, if you throw any shade Mo's way, expect that it's going to come about online. He's going to get into a bit of beef with you. So I could be wrong, but as far as I know, the current argument is Mo is saying ADCC is responsible for pushing the sport of jiu-jitsu forward in terms of popularity, and Drysdale's argument is the IBJJF has done much more for the growth of the sport in sort of a grassroots level. That's basically the argument. And then obviously we had layers to this where they get personal, where Mo gets attacked by Drysdale because Drysdale alludes to that Mo wants to be the center of attention and stuff like that, as far as I know. And then Mo's counter-argument to Drysdale is, well, yeah, you're a bad person because you faked a match at ADCC. So in terms of the fake match stuff, Marcelo Garcia was 7 submissions deep and about to go on his way to the finals against Robert Drysdale with the ADCC, the Absolute. 4 submissions in his weight division, 77 kilos, 3 submissions in the Absolute. Incredible as a 77 kilo guy. Lachlan Giles is basically, him and Marcelo are the only guys to ever do anything remotely like that in the Absolute division. However, Marcelo was on his way to the final to potentially win it, but Drysdale was able to hit him with a Darce choke pretty quickly into the match, as far as I can remember, and submit him. Drysdale had a significant size advantage against Marcelo, but obviously Marcelo is Marcelo. But Drysdale had a kind of a weird match with Galvão the match before. I'm not accusing anyone of anything because, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know, but it did look a bit fishy, and I believe they were punished for it. I believe Galvão had to go back and do trials after that. So, I mean, ADCC are going to punish you if they think it was fake, whether it was or not. So, again, all the more incentive to fight hard against teammates and not make it look fishy. I also think Drysdale had a bias. So I think the argument was that he only had 1 real match on the way to the finals, whereas Marcelo had 3. But again, that's irrelevant to their main argument. That's just 2 guys going back personally against each other because they do not like each other. So I will say this selfishly, I think what Mo's done for the sport is incredible. Gave us the opportunity to compete in front of 15,000 people in Las Vegas. And I still even remember in California, the previous ADCC, like I remember coming out on day 2, and it was mind-blowing because it was a full crowd, and it was like, which again, you never see that, a full crowd at any sort of grappling event, for good reason. It's fucking boring, you know? But you'll see, I remember I walked out and there was like Gordon versus Barbosa, Kainan versus Buchecha, and Nicky Rod versus Cyborg. Yeah. And I was waiting to go on to my match, just watching these guys in the crowd, just being like, yeah, that's probably the coolest moment in the sport for me, even cooler than the last ADCC, because it was the first of its kind. Again, it was only 3,000-4,000 people there for that one, 15,000 for the next one. But yeah, what Mo's done for competition scene is impressive, you know? Obviously, he's not responsible for all of that, but he's sort of riding the wave of it and doing incredible things with it. And just look how strong the ADCC brand is, that people are doing ADCC Opens. There's really nothing that separates the Open from an AIGA, from an IBJJF, apart from the prestige of the name and people liking the rule set and wanting experience in the rule set to compete, to better prepare themselves for trials and worlds. But again, that's the power of the brand, and that's the power of the brand Mo has helped build. ADCC has a legacy, but he's been boss for a while and he's helped build that. So I will say that Mo has contributed. I believe he's hugely contributed. That's not to say IBJJF hasn't. IBJJF has developed a rule set that's the most common for competitors in the sport. They put on a good event. We talk a lot of shit about them, but they put on a good event. And it's consistent. It's everywhere. It's all around the world. It's recognizable. Everyone knows it. But I will say most
people that, like for me, growth of the sport is how many people sign up for jiu-jitsu classes and go to jiu-jitsu gyms and try to learn. And I can't say many people would watch an ADCC or an IBJJF and decide to start doing jiu-jitsu. If anything, they watched a Joe Rogan podcast clip on YouTube and he spoke of the virtues of jiu-jitsu, and they thought, yeah, I'll give that a shot, you know, like Joe Rogan helped rebrand who you think does jiu-jitsu because he gave exposure to people like Eddie Bravo. I guess a lot of people, jiu-jitsu is a martial art. Oftentimes you meet a karate or a taekwondo guy back in the day, you were like, this guy's a fucking weirdo and he's probably doing this to hang out with kids. Or you imagined a UFC MMA fighter and you were like, that ain't me. But I guess Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo exposed a different type of person. They exposed people to the idea that a different type of person participates in this sport, and that type of person is a regular Joe. You can be a regular person. That's the idea. Obviously, you show up to a jiu-jitsu gym and you're like, holy shit, none of these people have any social skills whatsoever. They're absolute weirdos. But again, most of those people are just like you. But yeah, I think Joe Rogan's probably more responsible. Yeah, and again, I can't say... No one showing up to a jiu-jitsu gym's terrifying to begin with, let alone the idea that you have never trained, you watch a competition and you say, not only I'm going to show up to a gym, I'm going to compete. Yeah. That requires some massive testicles and overconfidence, you know? Like some people assume they'll be good at jiu-jitsu for whatever reason, but very rarely do you go from no training to the goal of competing. Typically what happens is you overcome the anxiety of just entering the gym. You get comfortable there, and then still the idea of competing is very, very daunting. And if anything, a coach or something might encourage you to do it to test yourself under a sort of a high adrenaline environment. So again, I'm not saying either of these guys is wrong or right. I'm saying they're both probably to a certain degree right, but I think personally the growth of the sport isn't related to competition. I think Mo has grown the competition scene through ADCC. More people want to compete than ever that already do jiu-jitsu because of the ADCC. But yeah, I don't know if I would agree. I think the real growth of the sport's probably from people like Rogan on podcasts and stuff. To be honest with you, I think people get, you know, you're always into the competition team, so you know all these guys, following the guys on social media. I would say 90% of the people who do jiu-jitsu have no idea who the top guys are, who the top competitions are. They have a fucking job, they got fucking kids, you know, like we just get caught up in like, you know, since we're in that void of being in the room with the top competitors that we're like, oh shit, everybody knows everybody, but majority of people probably don't. Yeah, again, yeah, it's no one knows anyone. If you train at a small gym, ask some people in there, say, hey, name top 5 competition grapplers. Name competitions, name great coaches and shit. Like a lot of people just show up, you know, like it's their escape from their regular life. So they just show up, learn whatever their coach is teaching, and they just want to scrap with people they know in the gym, fight it out. You know, it's their hobby. That's all they want to do. You know, you could do CrossFit without caring about CrossFit athletes and studying CrossFit in your own time. Most people their lives are too busy to be absorbed with the competition scene. And again, a lot of the competitors in this sport are either assholes or boring. You know what I mean? So it's like we don't have charismatic athletes to draw these people in. Like, who cares about us? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, who gives a fuck about us? So it's like the competition scene is pretty small, you know? Like, I would say, me personally, some people would say I have a level of fame. I would say I'm very famous within a select, tiny group of the population of socially awkward jiu-jitsu nerds, you know? So it's like, if people recognize me in the street and stuff, if someone yells out my name in the street, I can loosely visualize what they're gonna look like when I turn around, you know? Like, it's not broad. Jiu-jitsu athletes are not famous. They're not famous. That's not real fame, you know?
no one cares about this sport too much.
And not to throw shit at ADCC, the Open had as many people as IBJJF Open would have, like, spectator-wise. You know, it wasn't like there was people watching and, you know, that were sold out. It was like, you know, it's an Open, man. It's like a Naga. They had the same amount of people in the stands that any of those tournaments do, so.
It's just a better brand. It's got a stronger brand upon being attacked by flies and how. It's just a better brand, you know. It's a more respected brand right now. IBJJF has had a longer time to both build a brand and have things go wrong that can hurt your image, you know. ADCC has just had trials and worlds, and they have had some ADCC rules events around the world, but nothing like the Open. The Open's massive.
Yeah.
1,000 competitors or some shit. That shit's crazy. But yeah, that's how we end it. Again, we're not taking sides in this argument. I think it's funny. I love watching people argue on the internet. Fuck. I love when people get emotional and argue with each other. That's the greatest gift the internet has given us, you know? And it's even a greater gift if one of the parties isn't serious and they're trolling the other one for a response. Absolutely brilliant, and we can only encourage more people attacking each other on the internet so we have something interesting to talk about. But that's it for episode 11. Download this podcast. Don't just watch it on YouTube. It helps us get ads. The more you download it, the less likely you'll see me compete. You'll just see me talk nonsense the whole time and probably offend large groups of people. I've already offended the entire country of Brazil. I've offended a lot of American Jiu Jitsu teams. I won't name names because I keep naming their name. But yeah, someone will eventually kill me, so appreciate this while it lasts.
And if you need some sponsors, where do they go, man? Where do they email us?
If you want to sponsor this shit show, email elsegundo@bteamstudios.com.
I'm trying to move out of the closet, so we need some money, guys.
And move into a bigger closet.
Thank you for listening to el segundo podcast. Don't forget, Fat Craig Jones.